Okay, so it is November 2020, and we are looking at Fred Dorward's philately collection of stamps and covers. So we found something in plastic, and we've taken it out once. We carefully put it back in, but now we're going to take it out again and document it. We've taken some photos, and I have these gloves on so I don't get oils on it. They're a bit big for my hands, but they do the trick. So when I took this out, I noticed that there was some burn marks. And this indeed was mail that was recovered from an airplane crash, and the commercial airliner was actually carrying Canada Post mail. And some of this was recovered from the crash site. So the way that we figured that out is because this is all postmarked between April 7th and April 10th, I believe, 1954, and it's postmarked Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. And it looks like there was a larger envelope that contained some other mail. So if we carefully open it, you can see how burned it is. If you look at this one piece, this was addressed to Mr. Frederick Ralph Dorward, Mr. F.R. Dorward. This is a Calgary address for his General Electric business address. We can see that this was postmarked Toronto, April 7th, 1954. And we know from news stories that there was mail carried from Ontario, and it had stopped in Winnipeg. More mail was added, and then the fateful airliner crash happened over Moose Jaw. There's one piece of mail. Here's another piece. If you look at the timestamp again, it's the 7th day of IV, so that would be the 4th month of 1954. I believe this is the GE letter. Dated 7th of April, which matches this postmark. And if we look through here, this again is from the Canadian General Electric Company, addressed to Calgary, Alberta. And if you look at this, it was stamped for airmail, which indeed we know it was. It was part of the mail that was on the airliner that crashed. And then we see the postmark again from the District Post Office, Inspector, April 9th, 1954, Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. So again, it wouldn't have likely been stamped from Moose Jaw had the plane not crashed. It would have been stamped in Toronto, Ontario, and gone straight over to Calgary. But because the airplanes crashed and there was a huge fire, then the people were able to salvage some of the mail, and then it had to go through the Moose Jaw Post Office. So we can carefully pick this up. Again, it's so fragile. I'm just going to move this. Let's look at another one. Here's another airmail, Toronto, from April 7th. Mr. F.R. Dorward. Another GE mail. This was to somebody else, but Fred likely got it from this Mr. J.H. Hole so that Fred could collect it. Again, another burned piece. This first class mail, April 7th. And again, there's that extra postmark stamp. District Post Office Inspector, Investigations, April 13th, 1954. So this is interesting because this is showing that this mail was salvaged from the accident site and it went through investigations. And so it was probably a part of that whole investigation to the plane crash, and this might have been part of evidence. So that's pretty neat. And we have one more envelope here. And again, this was going to Calgary. And again, this was from the district post office inspector. Oh, this was stamped Calgary, Alberta, so this is interesting, April 10th. So this one got through to Alberta, and it actually doesn't look burned. So I'm not sure if this was part, or maybe this was mail that was in the crash, but it didn't get burned. Anyway, somehow it got stamped in Calgary, so we're not sure about that. We'll have to look into that. So pretty neat piece of history.